Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the beautiful Sierra Renfro. Sierra, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing much better now. I am very excited to have you here. But before we talk about why you're here, Sierra, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. Over the past 8 years, she's immersed herself in the vibrant world of LA as an actress, writer, and producer. One of her recent passions is her film Haunting for the Hag, which had the honor of co-writing with her friend Paul Brooks. So, Haunting for the Hag, obviously spoiler free. Can you give us a little bit about what the film's about?
Sure. It's standard found footage horror movie, except we do it a little bit different. And that's why I think it's gonna get a lot of love. There's this sort of trope that happens with found footage horror. And without saying exactly what it is, because I'd be giving away a twist, we completely go the opposite direction. So I'd like to say that we give the people what they want when they're watching a found footage horror movie. But yeah, it's about three young ladies. They basically venture out into the woods of Illinois and they're looking for the hag. It's a urban legend in the town, and some shit goes down. So that's
No, and
basically
the good thing about this
it.
is, well, I mean, not only did you star in this, but you also teamed up with the executive producer, Seth, to help produce it as well. And you guys took home the Audience Choice Award at the Philly Unnamed Film Festival. And now something like that is always a huge thing. And especially, Puff, PUFF, the film festival out there in Philly, huge deal. So obviously, you guys are on the festival circuit right now. Um, you're still going to another one in 2024, but do we have like an idea of when this will be hitting any type of physical or streaming platforms?
Yeah, so we're actually going to be able to have it streaming by early 2024. So it's right around the corner. We're in the middle of our distribution deal right now. So we do have an Instagram. I'm sure you'll put it somewhere, but if anybody's interested in watching it on streaming or picking it up on Blu-ray, you can follow our updates and news about it on our Instagram, and we'll let you know where you can watch it.
See, and you stole my thunder. That was the next thing I was going to
Oh,
say.
sorry. My
For
bad.
those of you, and I strongly recommend it, not just following the film on Instagram, but I have all of Sierra's social media links as well as I have a link to her Tubi show, Ghost Girls. It's
Yeah.
a paranormal investigative show. Can you tell me, obviously, again, spoiler free, because I want people to, and I have the links for that as well. So make sure you're following Sierra on social media. Make sure you're following Hunting for the Hag on social media, and make sure you're going and checking out Ghost Girls. Now, Ghost Girls, can you give us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Ghost Girls is it's actually like a real paranormal show. So it's we're hunting for ghosts, kind of like Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, except it's a team of all girls, which surprise, surprise, you don't really see in media very often, which is kind of funny.
Mhm.
Especially since like 80% of like viewers of paranormal shows are actually women, and
Mhm.
there's very little representation there. So we're like, hey, why don't we just make an all-girl ghost hunting show? And then we
And
made
it
Ghost
just makes sense
Girls.
because girls kick ass. So if there's anybody that's going to be out there ghost hunting, I would rather be with a bunch of women because the women aren't going to want to be with me because I'm going to be like, take her, she's prettier, and I'm going to run away.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, so yeah, I mean, there's a couple different things. Obviously, like that's the big difference, right? But we're having fun with trying to find ways that we can do things differently in the investigation itself. So
sure.
there's we just filmed another episode a couple weeks ago, and me and one of the investigators, Sarah, where we were in a schoolhouse that was like from the 1800s. It's up in Mentryville. So anyone local to Los Angeles, if you know where Mentryville is, that's where we're at. And we went in dressed in full like time period clothing and like basically immersed ourselves in acting like we were teachers.
Sure.
And so I haven't really seen anything like that before. So we're kind of playing around with the different types of investigations we can do, see if we get any evidence with that. So yeah.
That's awesome. And of all the places you visited, which one? And if it spoils the show, please don't answer. But of
Okay.
all the places you've been, which one creeped you out the most?
Creeped out, probably Mentryville.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's like a full ghost town. So there's a barn, there's a schoolhouse, there's a mansion, and it's, in the middle of nowhere, so it's really dark.
Right.
And when we're about to film, we were nestled between like two mountains because it's kind of like in a canyon.
Mhm.
And right as the sun was going down, you could see like just like floods of mist like coming down and soaking into the
No
canyon.
thanks.
So it was like, I don't know, like the universe knew that we were doing something scary and it just like turned up the like spooky factor. So
It's
yeah.
awesome though when that goes the way you want it to.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it worked out
Well,
great.
if you guys are ever coming to the Midwest, I got a couple places here in Michigan we'd like to take you and show you. I think we could have a good time. I know Ashley would have a great time. We got Ghost Trestle, we got the Haunted, Brass Lantern. So if you guys are ever out here in the Midwest, please make sure you hit us up. We'd take you out and show you guys an amazing time. Maybe see something spooky here and there. So,
Oh, absolutely.
um, yeah, I know I said it a minute ago, guys, but those links are down in the description and make sure you're checking out the show. And the biggest thing to do is to follow not just her, but the team on social media, because that's the best way to stay up to date on all the amazing things they have coming up. Because Hunting for the Hag, Ghost Girls, these are not the only things that she's working on, and they're not the only things she's going to be working on. So to stay up to date on everything that she has coming up for us in the future, make sure you're following her on social media. But in order to be a part of Hunting for the Hag, in order to do Ghost Girls, horror had to start for you somewhere, Sierra. So now I would like to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Sierra, the first horror movie that you watched was.
This is debatable because it doesn't say horror when you look it up, but signs.
Okay. I just got to throw this out there. I've always been one of those people that say horror is what you make it.
Yeah.
Um,
I know I looked it up and it was like a thriller drama, and I'm like, fuck that. No,
no.
it's pretty, it's scary. So,
I think that there are movies out there. Horror is the hardest genre to lock down and say
yeah.
this is a horror movie, this isn't a horror movie. I've also teamed Jurassic Park as a horror movie. I am also team The Terminator as a slasher. I mean, he covers his face. He goes through the phone book to find every Sarah Connor to make sure he kills her. He's a total slasher villain, like total slasher. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, I've just always said horror is what you make it. I've had people that were on here talking about the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz really, really scared them. You got the monkeys, you got the fire on the scarecrow. Again, what makes a horror movie? Death. The Lion King has death. Blood. I've seen a lot of episodes of ER. Blood doesn't make horror. So,
Yeah.
Signs. I don't think there's any debate. This is a horror movie.
Okay,
Um,
good.
I think it's a practical horror movie where it's a practical fear that all of us have. So, do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
Yeah, so it came out in 2002 and I was 7 years old. So that was like the first movie I sat down with my family. My mom, my parents, my whole family's like always been obsessed with the paranormal and also aliens, like love talking about aliens and theorizing and all that stuff. So it was really fun growing up with that, but at the same time that came with like watching Signs, or what was the other one, War of the Worlds. When that came out, they also sat us down and it was like a family movie. So yeah, I was 7 years old and it just terrified me to my core, like traumatized. I remember my mom loving it, and my mom, whenever she likes something, she like we say she like loves it to death. That's kind of the joke. So she'll like play it over and over and over again.
Oh yeah.
So she wanted to do that with Signs, but I'd be like down the hall chilling in my room and she'd try and play it super quiet so I wouldn't know, but I could like hear the intro music at like level 2, and I'd just like start screaming and crying and be like, how could you put this on? So
I,
I had
I
to
just
give
picture you
myself.
sitting. I just picture you sitting in your bedroom with one of those tinfoil hats on. Like, no, they're not taking me, bro. That's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely.
Well, and I think it's great that your mother started you on this horror journey at such a young age, because I think as long as you get the education to go along with horror, it really can benefit you at a young age, because you learn the difference between fantasy and reality. You learn the difference between death and what's good and what's bad. And look, this is a movie. This isn't real. You can't really do this to people. So I think, like I said, with anything else, as long as you have the education to go along with it, it can really be beneficial on a young person to watch horror to get that understanding. Um, so we know that you watched it with your parents. You had a family movie night watching Signs, which is the dopest shit ever. Uh, but do you remember which scene it was that affected you the most?
Oh yeah, and what's really funny about this is it's become a meme amongst millennials, and I'm like, oh wow, I really do have a shared like trauma experience with like my peers. And it's the scene where they're watching like the TV and it has like the found footage of a birthday party and everybody's freaking out in the birthday party. Then they go outside, and then you see the full alien walk by, and it like does like the pause on it. Um, yeah, that did it for me. It's like,
Joaquin Phoenix has the best reaction to that, like that
like,
reactionary take.
"Ah."
I feel like that is such a great moment, and it really enhances the fear of this film. And I try to tell people, like, go back and rewatch Signs if you haven't watched it in a while, because there's a lot of scenes that people even forget about. Like one of the scenes that scared me on a rewatch is when they're in the basement and the young boy backs up to like the heater,
Oh
and the alien's
yeah.
hand comes out and grabs him. Like that
Oh,
scene, like rewatching it, I had forgotten about it. And I was
I
just like,
literally just
oh,
got chills when you
yeah,
said that.
yeah,
I
such a good scene, such a scary scene. So I don't know if
Also
you
the
can.
one, oh
Yeah,
sorry, also the
no,
one
please.
where, because I rewatched it too, knowing that we're gonna talk about it, and like it scared me like almost just the same. I was like, wow, I've seen so many things and like I've been in horror movies and yet it still has the same effect. And one scene that also did it was he goes to Ray's house and he's like, oh yeah, I trapped an alien. By the way, I trapped an alien in the room. And he like puts the knife under the door, and then like the hand comes out, and then he like cuts the hand and it screeches and all the birds fly everywhere.
Hmm.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
one was scary.
right. And again, I think that this movie gets a bad rep because of the ending. They're like, "Oh, water kills the aliens." Spoiler alert, guys! If you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. It's 15 years old now. Um, but if you guys haven't seen this movie, obviously, like that ending has got really scrutinized, and I was like, "You guys are really gonna? That's the issue you have?" I think it's brilliant. There's nothing to say that their body could sustain this atmosphere. The thing that keeps us alive doesn't keep everything out there in the outer space world in the galaxy alive.
Yeah, and I mean that's not a crazy concept. Like I mentioned, World of Worlds, and the common human flu is what kills them at the end, right? This terror, and those aliens are terrifying. But I think also something I missed when I was younger watching it, and it's so obvious now doing like my rewatch, is like the theme of the movie being about like, is there coincidences, or does everything happen for a reason? And they mention it multiple times, but being scared and watching it, that kind of stuff just goes over your head. And I feel like the ending really wraps up the theme and like puts everything to a closure. So, the water glasses being left and the girl not wanting to drink them, which also I was a water bottle hoarder when I was younger. So like when I saw that girl doing the same thing I was doing, I was like, oh my God, like she's like me. I'm gonna see a monster out the window. But that's why I liked the ending, is because everything was meaningful. Like everything that they had in the movie was meaningful, that wasn't necessarily directed towards scaring you. So
Right. I mean, I remember crying the first time I watched it. Dad, did someone save me? That scene was so good.
yeah.
And I do think also, like something I've talked about before, 7-year-old Sierra that's watching this movie that doesn't have a complete grasp on the world yet may not understand a lot of the themes that, adult Sierra has going back to rewatch the film. As a 7-year-old, you're identifying more with the children. Those are your peers. That's who you're looking at and saying, this is who I'm paying the most attention to because I understand them. As
Yeah.
adults, we go back, like I've talked about it with um, especially Pet Cemetery and The Exorcist. Watching those as children compared to watching those as a parent are two completely different viewings.
Mm.
So that's what I love about these movies is we go back and we watch Signs from being a 7-year-old young lady to being an adult, and the different feelings you get and the different concepts that you're grasping. That's why I love horror so much. That's why I like media so much in general. They can make us feel different things in 3 different decades.
Yeah.
So I think that's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this next question, but I'm going to try it anyway because I know you were pretty traumatized the first time you had seen it. But we know which scene affected you the most. But do you have a favorite scene from the movie?
I mean, one that just like felt like magical, not necessarily scary, but like a little bit magical to me was when the baby monitor in the car like picks up the like alien signals. There's something about the music in the background and the like actual shot of them like up on the car together, like holding the baby monitor up that feels
Yeah.
like, oh, there's something other than us, but like not in like a very terrifying way, but like a, oh, something's communicating. So I'd say that one. That's good.
The upper shot of that.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's a beautiful, very ET-esque in that
Yeah.
moment. So,
Yeah.
and again, as a kid, like you said, that's magical. We're seeing this, and like we know baby monitors, we know, and they're using that as communication. Like it's just little things like that that stay with us.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously, in the world right now, remakes, requels, sequels, kind of all the rage right now. Is Signs a movie you would like a sequel to, or would you like to see them attempt a remake at that movie today?
Um, no. Just because, I mean, Mel Gibson may not be as relevant anymore. At the time, he was very relevant, but Joaquin Phoenix was like on his up and up, right?
Yeah.
Now, Joaquin Phoenix is like a very, very established actor that's been in a lot of things, and he's really fabulous. I mean, I guess a remake would make sense, but at the same time, just in like the world of like studios wanting to remake and do sequels on every fucking movie. It's just kind of like we could use an original idea, you know? So for me, like let's leave it. And then
Yeah.
once maybe in 10 years when it's like really outdated, then maybe revamp it.
Sure. And again, I don't think you could ever recapture the magic of any Shyamalan film.
Yeah.
Um, it's just something that I don't think. Usually, twist ending movies, I don't want you to remake. Um,
Oh, because
there's
you know
really
the
no point.
twist. That's true.
Yeah. So that's like Psycho. Like when they did the Psycho remake, I love. Like I don't hate the Psycho remake. It's shot for shot. It's the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
I just it's the most unnecessary remake of all time. Like it's just so unnecessary. And if you're gonna remake a movie like Psycho or like Signs or The Sixth Sense, you're gonna have to do it shot for shot. So there's no point in even doing it. Like it doesn't make any sense to do it. So I agree with you, but it's in my script, so I gotta ask. Um now we've talked about your first horror movie being Science here and what that movie means to you. But here for a second, I want to throw a little bit of a curveball at you. My little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Sierra? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
The Exorcist.
Oh, the
Uh,
OG.
OG Exorcist. Yeah. Because to me, that movie's cursed. Also, I mean, there's theories that it is cursed with everything that happened while they were making it. And that is the only movie to this day that like I can't watch alone. Signs I did watch alone and I'm like fine. Exorcist, no way in fucking hell am I watching that by myself. There's something so beautifully disturbing and wrong about it. And I think doing demonic films well is kind of hard. I feel like you got to do it right.
Yeah.
A lot of movies don't do it justice, but that is like the top tier demonic horror movie of all time. So
It's just funny because like I'll always have a stigma around that movie because, and I'm sorry for repeat viewers that have heard the story before, but my mom and dad they owned a mom and pop video store when I was growing up, downtown video. So I spent all my time in the store. And The Exorcist was the only movie my mom ever shut off. She was like, "Nope, we're not doing this. Too much." So this movie will always have that weird stigma around it to me, just because my mom shut it off. So I was always scared of it. Now I gotta ask, obviously spoiler free. Have you seen The Exorcist Believer?
no, and I'm actually kind of excited for it. Like it came on, like I saw the preview or whatever, and my boyfriend's like, "Oh, well, I heard, all the reviews that it's bad." I was like, I mean, of course the storyline is probably falling flat. Like, I'm not gonna watch it for the storyline. Like, I want to watch it for the nostalgia of like what the first Exorcist movie gave me. And the music and the makeup alone is what's gonna make it scary for me. So I don't see how they could like mess that up. But we'll see. I haven't watched it yet. Have you seen
The
it?
three things I'll say: one, never trust critics when it comes to horror movies because they hate horror movies anyway.
Mm.
Two, I gave this 3.5 out of 5, and three, I cried sad and then overwhelmingly happy tears at the end of this movie. Something
Oh,
happened, and I please you can't look anything up. You have to go into
I,
this blind.
I love going in blind, so it's okay.
The way that they did the end of this movie, I had no idea. We went to a premiere screening, and at the end of the movie, I literally like my jaw hit the floor, and I was like, "No fucking way that just happened!" Like I was overwhelmed with happiness and joy, and it's worth a watch. And like I said, are they ever going to recapture what The Exorcist did? No. The problems that I have with this movie have nothing to do with the story or I think the acting is just absolutely fantastic.
Oh,
The
good.
problem I have is a lot of the connections they have to the original film are very shoehorned in and unnecessary. Um, you could take out about a 10-minute chunk of the film, and this could have been its own movie, but I'm hoping that the next one, Deceiver, I'm hoping that ties in more with the original, and it has a very good chance to do so. But I will burn that bridge when we get there. But I think I'll always say, even if I hate a horror movie, I'll always tell people go watch it for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, don't take my word for it. Don't take my opinion for it. Go support horror. Go spend your money. Support horror. It's the best genre in the world. Show it
Yeah.
love. Let's do it. So, um, we've talked about your first horror movie, Sierra, and we've talked about your favorite horror movie. But before I let you go, I always bounce back to the same question. We're going to go back to Signs, and what we're going to do is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, Sierra, we're not ranking this movie on acting, production, score, direction, how scared you were when you watched it at 7. What we're doing is we are strictly ranking it on how much it affected you as a young lady the first time you had seen it. So, 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Sierra, what would your ranking of Signs be?
5. 5.
I,
And
I
my parents are
when you
probably
can
gonna
hear
watch
the
this and be
intro,
laughing.
I say when you can hear the intro title card and it freaks you out, there's no way that can't be a
The
5.
music still haunts me. I hear the music and there's like something in my like child brain that switches off that's like, I need to run. I need to hide. Like, it really fucked me up.
And I know I said this at the beginning, guys, but we are at the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, please make sure you're following Sierra and the production team and the movie all on social media. Make sure you're checking out Ghost Girls on Tubi. I promise you won't regret that. Sierra, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really does help the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. All our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.